Hello, good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History, where today we begin chapter 15 of the book of John, fourth book of the New Testament, and then we'll be moving into chapter 15 of the Impersonal Life. We're gonna hear from Elvis as always. And we're going to do all that when we come back from this song. He gave away his heart.
Midnight lights, rhinestone fire, Arabian suit, burning with desire. He hit the stage like thunder rolls. Vegas shook and the story unfold. Charlie's birthday, crowd went wild. He cracked a joke and sang with style. But just before he sang Hurt So Deep, he stopped the show and made us weep. He gave away his heart, just a song, diamonds and gold, where the love belongs. Rings and shades from the man backstage. He healed the broken, he lit the flame. Oh, he gave away his heart, and I saw it all that night. Blackened hair, man stepped near. Elvis smiled, the crowd could hear. Thanks to you, we raised the light. 17,000 hearts took flight. Then back behind the velvet door, he gave away a little more. Music rings, a boxcar shine, a suit that held his sacred time. He gave away his heart, not just a song, diamonds and gold, where the love belongs. Rings and shades from the man backstage. He healed the broken, he lit the flame. Oh, he gave away his heart, and I saw it all that night. He didn't need applause to know his worth. He gave away his soul in Vegas mirth. Not just a king, but something more. A man who knew what hearts were for. Gave away his heart, not just a soul, pieces of love where the brave belong. Ritual gifts from the man backstage. He saved the hurting, he the flame. Oh, he gave away his heart, and I'll never be the same. I was there, I saw the rings, I saw the light. Gave away his heart, and it burned so bright.
Thank you for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. Today we're going to hear echoes from Elvis Presley before we move into the book of John. This page is from a Bible that Elvis owned, that sold at auction for an enormous amount of money. And he's underlined different passages here. And we don't really know where in the Bible this is from, because we can only see this one portion of the page. But it's verse 19, and it says, "The meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel." And it goes on into verse 20. It looks like Elvis has put parentheses around these two verses together, possibly into portions of verse 18. So if we read all three of these verses, it says, "And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off." That's an interesting verse. And all that watch for iniquity are cut off. There was a lot of people that we heard that were related to Elvis in one way or another after he passed away, and they made a lot of claims that money was given to strangers, but not to themselves. In all of the books that surround Elvis, that talk about him as a person and that people that knew him, almost every single person mentions that they, in some way or another, were watching his spending habits. And not just the gifts that he gave them personally, but they watched what he gave to others. And then they compared it to what he had given to them. Those are watchers of inequity. And those are the ones that are going to be cut off according to this verse. It says the scorner is consumed. Now, consumed is an interesting word. If we bring Joseph Benner in, it appears that his cosmology revolves around not punishments from the divine, but punishments that we inflict upon ourselves when we understand openly what our personality has done to other divine shards. And then we burn in some kind of purifying flame, is the way that Joseph Benner words things. But the Bible talks about flames a lot as well. And in this passage, it's talking about being consumed, which is a way to talk about what fire does to fuel, like wood. It consumes it. And so the scorner, which is the personality, your divine shard doesn't scorn anyone. Jesus doesn't scorn anyone. God doesn't scorn anyone. Your divine shard, which is a piece of the divine, we are all divine shards, and we're sent here to earth on a mission that requires a delusion of individuality. So we're a piece of unity that is sent to feel what it means to be alone and in solitude, and that will allow us to filter the full light into a projection like a prism, so that we only show a single color of the total rainbow that is the divine. That's a divine attribute that we're supposed to be projecting. Now, the filter that we use is the personality, It's required. It's something that's got to be there. But it's also the scorner. And at some point, when we return to unity, which is after the mission has been fulfilled, after the personality has done its duty, well, at that point, the personality will be consumed. It's what is purified away in the fire. And all that's done while we're turned away from unity, walking into our own solitude. And when the fire has purified us, then we're able to turn around because there's no more fog. That's what's consumed. That's the scorn. There's no more fog blocking us from seeing the light, and therefore we're able to align ourselves. Now, previous to that, sincere seeking is treated as alignment by Jesus or by the divine, who then turns you into alignment even if you can't see the light. But the scorner being consumed is what's going to happen at the point that we shrug off the personality, at the point where the divine shard becomes fully and openly aware again of unity, able to see it in its full glory. Then that will reveal what the personality has done. And that's when the terrible one is brought to naught. And the meek shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men, and this is people that have very little finances. They don't have much material wealth. This would have spoken to Elvis as a child, and probably resonated with him as an adult, because he was no longer poor, but the poverty that he had lived in marked everyone around him, especially his father, Vernon. I think Elvis might have even seen that Gladys, his mother, she died still suffering from poverty. They were rich. She could have anything that she wanted, but the years of poverty still weighed heavily on her heart. And so when Elvis reads The Meek, I think he thinks about his own family, his mother and his father, but also his extended family. Elvis is a child of the meek. That everyone he ever knew in Tupelo was one of the meek. And now let's move over to chapter 15 of the book of John. This is the fourth book of the New Testament, King James Version. Now, normally we go through a comic book version that catches us up on what we've missed, but we're still in the Last Supper, basically. We've been there for a couple of chapters. There's not a lot of action going on. There's a lot of talking happening. A lot of ideas that are being shared. A lot of internal struggles. And those don't translate well to comic books. And after a small search amongst even the non-public domain illustrative versions of the Bible, everybody skips chapters 15, 16, and 17 in the book of John, and all the other gospels that speak about this period. So that's kind of interesting, but it basically means it doesn't translate well to pictures. And it doesn't translate well to being told to a young, children or young adults that they're not thinking in the kind of terms that Jesus is talking about here, that this is a very intellectual conversation, and that there's not much imagery being used other than a vine. But let's get into it, because we don't have any pictures to look at. It says, verse 1, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. And so this is Jesus. He's talking to the 11 disciples that are left at the table at the Last Supper. They might have moved out of the building yet. I've lost track of exactly where they are physically. Hopefully the chapter will realign us. But I think they're all still together. This is Jesus' last chance to talk with them as a person, as a living, breathing person, until he is resurrected. But then those moments are overshadowed by the immensity of what is happening. And so this is the last quiet moment that he has with these men. And he says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. So a vine is talking about a grapevine, and the husbandman is the farmer, the vineyard guy, the one who owns the vines, who's looking to harvest the grapes, who's going to make them into wine. Probably do some raisins too, but mostly for the wine. And verse 2 is, every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, and it may bring forth more fruit. So every branch that does not bear fruit on the vine, this is what the husbandman, or the man who works the vineyard, those vines are dead, or they're not producing, they're not healthy to the whole. He prunes them away. And then the branches that bear fruit, he prunes them of themselves so that they bear more fruit. He just basically maintains them. Same way that we would clip our fingernails or cut our hair. And then they're going to produce more grapes, and there's going to be a better yield. In verse 3, now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. I think Joseph Benner would equate this to alignment and say that because they are in the presence of the physical presence of Jesus, and we've already heard him say that if the people did not sing his praises when he was nearby, then the very stones would sing it. He has a resonance that's broadcasting from him. It's rippling away from him, and everyone around him is realigned through his grace. They're able to see the light because he is the light and he's right there. Now, some can turn, like Judas, but those who are sincerely seeking, he has cleansed them. He has realigned them. That's the cleansing. He's also cleansed them of the shame that they would feel that turns them from him. Now, Judas, he fogged up a new batch of shame, and that's how he's able to turn. But these men are sincerely seeking, and so Jesus has removed all of these fogs for the moment. And in verse 4, he says, abide in me, and I in you. So abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye except ye abide in me. So Joseph Benner would indicate this is a passage of unity. The branch is a part of the whole. They form unity together. The divine shard is a shard of the divine. It's still connected. We may not feel connected. We've got a lot of problems with the way we feel things. We have a very limited sensory perception for feel. It's the same way that we have vision. We see colors and we see in 3 dimensions, but there's a lot of the visible spectrum we don't even know is there with our eyes, but it's still there. And it's saying, no more can ye except ye abide in me. And this is a statement that there is no solitude, that you may feel solitude, because again, we got these disjointed or broken feelers inside us that's always feeling a lot of different stuff. But we have a tendency to misinterpret what these feelings are. And solitude is an illusion because we're part of a whole, we're part of unity. And therefore, we cannot abide outside of unity. Even though we're here on earth, we feel the solitude. Our personality filters as solitude. It's supposed to. That's how we bring clarity to the divine attribute, which we're showing in solitude. The divine attribute resides in unity, but we're illustrating it in solitude. And we can only do that if we feel the solitude ourselves. And it's saying that if we feel ourselves, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, the fruit that we bear is this connection to the light. The light is the projection, we're just the filter. But it's also saying that a completely opaque filter cannot transmit any light. And that is a self-delusion that you're not connected back to the divine. That you're not your shard and you're not connected back to the divine. We're all a divine shard wrapped in a soul body, which is the perfect way to make us feel as if we are in solitude. And then that particular body is wrapped or reflected in our mortal body, which is a very imperfect reflection. And it's the imperfection that creates the required filter. You could think of it as the perfectly imperfect filter that is our personality. Only it's not quite perfect because it is imperfect, and so we're constantly perfecting it so that it will shine through the attribute correctly. That's how we bear the fruit. But when we are cut off and we're not bearing the fruit, that's a self-delusion. We're totally turned on the compass from north to south. We could see alignment as a compass. North is perfectly aligned. Every other point is misaligned. Every other point. We live our lives mostly in these other points, trying to go north, although some do purposely head themselves south. And when you are perfectly headed south, you're completely opaque. You're not able to transmit that light properly. You twist it and refract it into something else. There are projections, but they're not projections of the attribute, at least not cleanly enough for anyone to pick up properly. Now, you're still serving the Lord because he's already said, willingly or unwillingly, everyone serves. There is a project. It's the real earth. I think of it as this giant painting, the size of the universe. Everybody's doing something, even if it's just pointing someone else, another divine shard, to what they've got to do. And maybe that's what these people that are turned south are doing. But the Joseph Benner chapter told us not really to worry too much about them, to take the light that we can see coming from them, to learn the lessons that we can, to have compassion and grace for those who gave us that light because they're struggling themselves, and then to move forward on our own spiral in the hope that the light we're able to cast for others will help others get closer on their own spirals to wherever it is they need to go, perhaps even including the one who gave us that light. That's how all the divine shards interact together. And verse 5 says, I am the vine, ye are the branches. Joseph Benner would say this is Jesus saying he is unity, and we are unity. We're shards of that unity. We're not the full vine. We're the branches. But we're all the divine. We're shards of the divine. We're all pieces of unity, and unity ultimately is love. So Jesus, who's told us before in the Bible that he is love, he says, I am the love, and ye are the resonance of love, the reflection of love, the shards of love. You're a fractal of the divine. You bear the divine pattern, the stamp, the mark of love. And then it says, he that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. And this is basically what verse 4 told us. The branch can't bear fruit by itself, except it abide in the vine or abide in Jesus. And then he that abideth in Jesus, well, then Jesus abides in him. And who does Jesus abide in? Well, I think he's already told us that, and Joseph Benner seems to echo it. Jesus abides inside everyone. All is love. All is unity. Even those shards that we look at here in the mortal realm, and we say there's no way that they're connected to the divine. They are. Everyone is connected to the divine. Jesus is in every heart. It's never that the divine is not broadcasting. It's that we don't have our radios tuned to him, that we're not listening, that we're not hearing, that we do not wish to recognize. And that's not a moral failure that we don't wish to recognize. It's a testament to the strength of the illusion of the real earth. And it's supposed to be a very strong illusion like that. We're only getting glimpses of unity here. And we've forgotten how to turn into our hearts and talk to the I am. And that's what Jesus is telling the disciples here. It's easy to forget while you're a branch, that there's a much larger vine supporting the whole. And that there's a lot of resources coming through that vine. And you've just got to concentrate to remember and to communicate back to the main vine what it is that you need in order to fulfill the mission, which is to bring forth much fruit. So you're going to project this divine attribute, and it's going to have effect. It's going to do things. It's going to bring forth much fruit. And then the for without me ye can do nothing is until you turn inward, not to solitude, which is what we believe inward is, because that's what it feels like. We're very into the feel. But when we get past the feeling, which is part of the personality, it's self, it's personal, we've got to push past that into the impersonal. That's why Joseph Benner titled his book The Impersonal Life, because unity has no self. There are no individuals in unity. There is simply unity. That we will recognize in unity that we were within an illusion. We'll still remember everything that we learned in the illusion and what it felt like. And that's the feeling. That's why we're here. We need that feeling. That's the filter. That's telling us the filter's working. But we can't use the filter, which is a tool, when we look at the divine. That's not what that tool's meant for. And it simply confuses us. It never confuses the divine. He knows a tool when he sees it. He knows a mask when he sees somebody wearing it. It's only us who are fooled. It's like when you dress up to feel the part, and you fool yourself into thinking, hey, I am this person. And Elvis lived that out a little bit. Alan Fortas has this wonderful story about Elvis being upstairs watching football. And one of the guys came over and asked Alan where Elvis was. He says, well, he's upstairs watching football. In bed. Wearing his shoulder pads and his jersey and helmet. Because Elvis, of course, had all that stuff. They'd go out and play football together. So he's in his bed wearing this uniform while he watches football on TV. Because he lived the part. That's how he lived the part. Now, that's an illusion. He's in his bed with an illusion that he's a football player. And he's doing it for fun. And he's having fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. But even Elvis recognizes that's an illusion while he's in the bed. He's not fooling himself. He's just having fun. That's what we're supposed to recognize about the personality and talking to the I am. It's been fun to wear the personality. The divine shard enjoys it. Like a small child, we are happy to play with it and show our antics in front of our parent, which would in this case be the divine. And the divine enjoys it as well. Your parents, they loved it when they saw you dress up for Halloween. Or whatever it is you may have worn a mask or play pretended for. But you don't spend your entire life with your parents wearing whatever mask of the day it is that you were wearing as a child. It's fun, you take it off, and then you have the serious discussions. And in verse 6, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. This sounds like a lot of punishment. If a man abide not in me, So this is a person who's not aligned, according to Joseph Benner. We might assume this is someone purposely misaligned, but it doesn't say that. It just says that he abide not in him. It kind of feels like he made a choice, like there was a choice made, like there's a moral implication here. But when Joseph Benner looks at these passages, he removes most of the moral implications. Joseph Benner tends to indicate that the moral implications are a kind of a fog. Not an unneeded fog, but one that is a stepping stone that keeps us inside the guidelines of the path, kind of like the white lines or the yellow lines, reflective lines that are painted on a road. They're visible for us, and they help us maintain the straight and narrow path that we need at that moment in our spiritual life. So if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered. So it sounds like he's made this moral decision to turn away from what he can see as the guidelines of the road. But Joseph Benner likes to come along and say, those guidelines are like training wheels. And they are training wheels on your bicycle. You needed them at that moment. But now you can walk onto paths that have no guidance of that kind. Because now you abide you are aligned and you're clearly seeing the light. And the light it destroys all shadows. I'm having trouble verbalizing these thoughts. But if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch. So if you're not aligned, then you're cast away and withered. So I think this is speaking of your spiritual self, that as you walk into solitude, your ability to feel love and therefore to transmit love is basically stopped, because you have this completely opaque personality, and therefore that's withered, which is a vine that's not growing any fruit. You're not transmitting your divine attribute, and therefore no fruit is being gathered or grown. And then it says, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Now this reminds me of what Joseph Benner was just saying about authority figures. And that these authority figures have this light that others recognize in some way, and they gather around them. And that not all of these authority figures are truly aligned. That some of them are displaying some portion of an attribute that's attracting us, the divine attribute that has brought us to them, but their own purposes are misaligned. And I think that's the men that are gathering these other misaligned souls. These are the broadcasters of solitude. Now, you can never, you will always be alone in solitude. That's what solitude is. But you broadcast your loneliness in an attempt to gather others, and they do gather. But they gather together each in their own solitude. And as they move into their own solitude, this is what Joseph Benner is describing, although he doesn't say it outright. This is what he's describing as hell. Moving into this solitude and burning in a purifying fire that is suffering for the divine shard because it's pulling it further and further away from unity. Although it's an illusion, it's further and further away from unity. It's withering more and more, and that's the burning. They are burned. This is the fire of purification. And these other men gather these souls together, these divine shards who are misaligned. The misaligned gather in an attempt to create a unity, but they can't because there is no unity in solitude. And in verse 7, if ye abide in me and my words abide in you, this is aligned. This is more than Jesus, the I am in your heart. He's already stated he's in everybody's heart. Now, he's talked about in whose heart he abides in just a couple of verses up here. Except ye abide in me. Verse 4. He that abideth in me and I in him. That's verse 5. And now we're on verse 7. If ye abide in me and my words abide in you. So this is not the same as what was in verse 5. This is, do you hear me? I'm inside you. He's inside everybody. But the words are a reflection of the listening. Are you aligned and are you hearing? It's a double thing here. If ye abide in me, that's the alignment. He's told us if you sincerely seek, you will be aligned. So he will align you, but the fog has not cleared. He will not clear your fog. Only you can clear your fog. And that opens the conduit, and that's when you can hear the words. Now, do the words abide in you because they came through the conduit and you heard them? Well, no. Peter is the perfect example of how the words slide right over a person because they're not willing to accept them in that moment. And a lot of that is an automatic deflection by the personality. It just jumps right on out there. It's like a basketball game. Someone passed the ball and all of a sudden this super player has jumped in the way. He's intercepted the basketball. He is now dribbling down to the other end of the court. That's your personality. He's a superstar basketball player. He's in there to gather every deflection, every time that you don't keep absolute control of the ball yourself. He's in there to grab it. That personality takes it back down to the other end of the court. Because we can't accept all these words that come in. We're shards. There's an infinite words coming in. All of them that come to us directly from the I am are meant for us, but they're just too much. And that's why we've got to work for them to abide in us. So this is a two-part process. This is the be still. That's part 1. Ye abide in me, be still. Be still's the instructions for how you can recognize that the divine, the I am, lives in your heart. You've got to clear away all these distractions that are keeping you from it, including the distraction of the personality saying, what are you, crazy? Somebody lives in your heart? So you've got to be still, and then you've got to know I am God. This is Psalm 46:10. It's also what Joseph Benner refers to over and over, that know I am God is my words abide in you. You don't just see him, you don't just recognize him, you intake. And you hold on to pieces. If ye abide in me and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. So this reminds me of Joseph Benner's chapter that we just read, where it said you'd wanted these teachers because you wouldn't listen to the I am inside. And it's not a moral judgment that you wouldn't listen. It's just where you're at, the way that you've got to be shown the word, the way that you've got to be turned to the I am and learn the skill of speaking to the I am. We can see here in verse 7, it's a two-part skill. You got to be still and you got to know. You have to abide in, and the words have to abide in you. So Joseph Benner is turning us inside, but he's saying you wanted these teachers from external because you weren't willing to trust what you're hearing inside. That's part of your fog. So I sent you to someone else, or sent someone to you, and you've learned a lesson. Now you're realizing they're limited. They're a shard too. They don't know everything. But that was what you needed at the time. And it seems to be saying something similar in verse 7. You shall ask what ye will. What ye will isn't what the divine would have you ask. It's not the divine asking you to do something. It's you asking the divine. And the divine says, I will do this for you. I will make sure you get the right lesson the way you need it. I think this is also part of what Elvis was talking about when he said to Vernon told him that everyone around him wanted something from him. And Elvis said, all you see is their wants. I see what they need. And so ye shall ask what ye will. And then it says, and it shall be done unto you. It doesn't say something will be given to you. It says something shall be done unto you. So I don't know if this is saying you're going to get what you asked for, or I see what you actually need, no matter what you ask for, and that's what you're going to get. But there's also this shall be done unto you. So it's not exactly that you're going to be given something. In verse 8, herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit, and so shall ye be my disciples. So Jesus is praising the disciples in this verse, telling them that despite whatever personality failings they feel in this moment, there's been a lot of lessons at this Last Supper. There's been a lot of news, been a lot of changes. Judas has betrayed them. They've all recognized they might have been the betrayer. They've all been told there's going to be betrayal on their parts in the very near future. They've all been told Jesus is a goner. He's not going to make it. That something's going to happen. He's not going to be with them physically anymore. These are all hard spiritual blows for these men. But here Jesus tells them, you've really been doing a good job. You've borne much fruit. That no matter what fog you personally have in the way, you've worked through it. And you're still working through it, that you're on the right path, that others see your light, and that's why I've chosen you. And it says, so shall ye be my disciples. And in verse 9, as the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. continue ye in my love. This is what he told them earlier. If you can only hold on to one lesson, love each other as I have loved you. That's the one lesson to hang on to. That you can find all of the other knowledge through that one lesson. That it's a fractal lesson, and as you move your way up and down the fractal, you see it from a larger perspective and a smaller perspective. As you get closer to it and further away, that you'll find all the other things that you were supposed to do, all the other commandments derived from this one. Love each other as I have loved you. And then in verse 9 it says, as the Father hath loved me. So before he'd said, as I loved you, now he brings in God loving him. So I have loved you, and then he compares it to that love for them, which he's already brought forth before. He says, continue you in my love. So they are to go forth in his love. And what does that mean? It means to love each other as he has loved them. It's also a statement of unity. All is love. The Father has loved Jesus, who is love, who has spread that love onto the disciples, who are themselves love, and they will continue in love because all is love. And in verse 10, if ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. And the one commandment was, love each other as I have loved you. If you keep my commandments, which all derive from loving each other as I've loved you, then ye shall abide in my love. So I believe this is Jesus telling the disciples, or at least Benner might see it this way, that when you come to these crossroads in your life that you're going to come to, and I'm not there to guide you, and you're not hearing the I am clearly, or can't reach it, the I am at that moment, or feel that you've misaligned, look at whatever it is through the perspective of love, and then proceed forward. That if you use that perspective, that is keeping my commandments, and I will see it as keeping my commandments, and you will continue to abide in my love as I abide in the love of the Father. So I think he's saying, do your best. In verse 11, it says, these things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is a recognition that there's a lot of weighty things going on right now, and these men are probably feeling sorrow. They're probably drifting into despair. They're probably feeling depression. That these feelings are going to intensify over the next few days. There's really bad things coming. So Jesus has spoken this to them now, that the joy might remain in them. And that's the joy of being loved. And that their joy might be full. That they will know fully that they are loved, and that they will love each other in that same manner. And that is what's going to keep their joy full. In verse 12, this is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. So he narrows it all down into this one thing. It's hard to hang on to any thoughts right now I recognize that it's been a very difficult night. We're moving into a very difficult few days. Hang on to this thought, that ye love one another as I have loved you. And this is a restatement of unity. We are all one together. So the commandment is, do not forget unity. When you despair, look to unity. When you feel unloved, talk to the I am in your heart. Be still and know I am God. These are all ways to say the same commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. And that's where we're going to leave it for today on this one distillation, that ye love one another as I have loved you. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with me today, either live or on the replay. I definitely appreciate all your thoughts and your comments and your chats and your likes and your subscribes and all those YouTube things. I'm going to play a song to send us out of here, and you all keep on taking care of business. This is Quiet Light.
Beauty walks soft as a whisper, yet thunders like storms overhead. Kind and gentle in its passing, still a thing of might and dread. And the word became a lantern, placed in trembling human hands, saying, child, behold my glory, not in faces, but in hearts that understand. For the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome. Every soul receives a lantern, every wanderer is called home. He wrote truth in quiet margins, for the ones who read between. Faith will conquer, said the giver, I am the light you've always seen. Beauty's not the mask we're wearing, not the mirrors feeding grace. Beauty burns within the heart's face, kindness casting God's own shadow on the contours of a face. And the I am speaks in stillness, in the breath between each thought. The soul remembers union with the love it never lost. For the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome. Every soul receives a lantern, every wanderer is called home. He wrote truth in quiet margins, for the ones who read between. Faith will conquer, said the giver, I am the light you've always seen. Distance only closes in the moment, when the veil of flesh is torn. Yet the word says I am with you, from the instant you are born. Dreams stay cold, room silent, body, mind and spirit still as one. In that hush the lantern brightens, and the night becomes undone. Be as gentle as the lamb is, when you're dealing out your love. Be as fearless as the lion, when you guard what's holy from above. Let your honor strike like lightning, swift and righteous in its speed. For the light that lives within you is the strength behind the creed. For the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome. Every soul receives a lantern, every seeker finds the one. He wrote truth in quiet margins, as a gift for those in need. Faith will conquer, whispers softly as the lantern warms your hand. I am beauty, I am kind.